The basic idea of Hulala is basically to have good food, healthy food with less fat than anybody else, 100% plant-based. So that anybody, regardless where you're coming from, what you're eating, can have a good time with us in our restaurant. The idea was it has to taste good for the meat eaters as well. And I think we really did something good on this regard.
Welcome to a new episode within the Mind Echo podcast, where we are diving into the journeys, motivations, thoughts from different people that I'm finding quite interesting in the way on how they're thinking, either as business owners, entrepreneurs, maybe starting a startup business or being a leader within a company, but also because they have quite interesting profiles. And today I'm quite happy to have as a guest Gunnar Lüttgau. He was really open to jump into the podcast for one episode. And I said I'm really happy to have him today. Before starting the conversation, I just wanted to make a short introduction about himself. And please, Gunnar, correct me if there is something which is factually not correct.
Will do. Thanks for having me first of all, and it's a pleasure being here.
Great, thank you very much. So what I learned so far is that he's coming from a background regarding business administration, management, but also with some specialization on the finance side. And then when looking also into the career he decided to take up, he has built a really interesting career on the corporate side first, working in big companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers, like PPG, doing roles in the areas of business analysis, finance, and so on. And then he one day took the bold decision to leave the corporate environment and then engage with the current venture, which he's currently leading as one of the co-founders, which is 100% plant-based restaurant called Hulala, which is based on the city of Düsseldorf.
100% correct so far.
So that's in a nutshell our guest for today. So yeah, maybe if you would like to add anything else, unless you would say that was already covering as an introduction.
No, I think we're pretty good. Maybe I'm 36 years old, born and raised in Germany, studied here in Germany, did a semester abroad in the US. And in the past, I really found it interesting to work for international corporations. That's why I also decided to work for PPG, for PwC, because we have many international contacts, basically.
Okay, sounds good. And thanks for sharing. So what I wanted to, just to get the conversation started is, and I find it really interesting, is to look back first of all. So if we are going back to the earlier years of your life, let's say think about where did you grow up? Did you have already back then any motivations or influencers around that really led you to the idea, one day maybe I can become a business owner?
Yeah, not at all. I was raised in northwestern Germany, a city called Oldenburg. It's close to Bremen. Parents were working in the public administration, so there was nothing related to startups whatsoever. I have a cousin, though, that started his own marketing business years ago, but he did not really lead as a role model for me, I have to say. It was just that I knew, okay, there's someone in my family started his own business, quite successful, so that might work. How I ended up with the idea of working in a startup or to start my own startup really came with studying. So when you're into the business topics, business administration, everybody speaks about startups, especially in universities. So that's when there was a little man in the back of my head saying, well, this could be something for you. And well, this little man grew and grew over the years. And when our investor approached me asking me, hey, do you want to start with us this new concept? I was like, well, okay. Back in the days, I did not have a kid. Right now, starting a little family. And so I thought, well, now or never. And that was basically the motivation to start the whole Hulala thing.
Okay, all right, I see. So it was something, as you mentioned, that has been building up, but it was not that already with 5 years old you were saying, one day I will have my own kingdom. Okay,
not at all.
All right. Yeah, and that's nice to hear, because that also makes it relatable to some people as well. So it's not that everybody that comes to the point to lead or have a business automatically was 100% on the entrepreneurial mindset as you were a kid.
Not
but
at
this
all.
is
I mean,
something
look
that
at
can grow up.
Colonel Sanders from KFC. You started with,
Yeah,
what was it, 65 or something?
65 or so, exactly.
So I think it's never too late.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good message and a good point. But we will dive a bit more into the story in a second. But maybe before jumping then into that part. So you mentioned that you engaged with your studies and then you opted to start a career on the corporate side. So
Correct, yeah.
as mentioned, you have some experience on the strategy side, on finance side. Was there a motivation to go even that on the business area? And then, how did you start to build that career on the corporate world?
So after doing my Abitur in Germany, after the school, basically, I did like an apprenticeship, which is a very common thing in Germany, going to a vocational school, working part-time in a company for 3 years. That's how I would say the vast majority of people in Germany start their working career. I did that in the IT business. Thought that was pretty interesting, but there's somehow more that you can learn. That's not everything. IT is not everything. So I engaged in the business administration studies, did my bachelor's, did my master's, did the semester abroad, and wrote my master's thesis with the PwC in Düsseldorf.
Okay.
About a very treasury-related topic, which is a very narrow field in finance. And again, thought, well, cannot be everything. Well, it's
Sure.
interesting, but there's more. So, and then that's how I came to the traineeship with PPG. And there I learned about accounting, about controlling, treasury again, because I still think it's an interesting topic, and also credit. And that's how I got into business. And specialized in finance, had the role of a credit manager with a small team. The business analysis jobs I had, and then growing more and more with the company, and they also enforced that, which I'm very, very glad that this company really had that mindset that people have to grow, and this way I really learned a lot, really. And that's how I got into finance, into the business part, basically.
Okay, all right, I see. And I can definitely relate to that, because on my side it was also similar in the way that I also started my career working. So I'm an engineer from background, and then I started my career first on the supply chain side, and then from there I said, okay, similar question to you. There needs to be more, and there needs to be other areas which are untapped that could be interesting. And then from there, moving also to the marketing side, to the sales side. And yeah, I mean, if you ask me what's next, also a good question. But overall,
well, you don't know what you don't know, right? But
exactly,
it's very good to be interested in if there is more, because
exactly.
there's always more.
Exactly. I think you need to important, and that's also how I try to see it, to be open for opportunities,
Exactly.
and then really see how you make the best out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe then, before going to your current experience, maybe one more question regarding your experience. How do you, or what kind of key learnings do you take from working on such large companies that you think it serves you well when then going scaling down and starting your own business?
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to really see a very broad view of the finance from such a large corporation, and also many countries working in the EMEAs. So learning the international business still helping me today. But what helped me the most was a structured workway. So have a plan, having a plan for everything. Better over planning than under planning. That really helps still today. And also I learned a lot about leadership, and took that for myself, the best points I thought that might help lead a team. Of course, you see also the negative side, which you try to cut out then. So I would say those 3 aspects pretty much.
Okay, all right, interesting. But then from there, I would say let's make the bridge, and maybe we can reflect in a second a bit more on those skills towards how you can apply some of them, or you're applying some of them maybe on how you're working nowadays. But I'm curious, or I was curious also, again, when I saw your story, how was that moment? You mentioned that you were approached by an investor, and then there was an idea, and then that's where you took the decision to move towards starting Hulala. But can you maybe share a bit more on how that process was, in which moment of your life it caught you, and what thoughts you had?
It caught me, it was, I think, half a year after being promoted to a senior role with PPG. and caught me. We just moved to our house with my wife, and it was really super interesting to. It was the investor is related through my wife. His wife worked with my wife at the same bank
Okay,
in
right.
Düsseldorf, so that's how we spoke also early on a private level. And then one day he approached me and asked me, told me a bit about what the idea is with Hulala and what his expectations are, and if I could think of being playing a leading role in this organization. Because before he approached me, he approached two other guys, the other co-founders of Hulala, which were the operations manager managing the restaurant itself, the system behind, and then the food and beverage manager, which both were experts in their field, I would say. So the three of us really had like a good start, I would say. And that started in the ending 2021. So in the beginning of 2022, or the last days of 2021, I handed in my resignation with TPG. Had a transition phase of 3 to 4 months, and then we really went into the Hulala thing 100%.
Okay. And let's say in total, how many years did you say that you work on the corporate environment? Roughly.
That was 6-7 years.
6-7 years. And
yeah.
After 6-7 years of having that kind of working style, then let's say an opportunity like this comes to you.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy one then to say, okay.
It's not an easy one, because working in a corporate, you have everything is there.
Exactly.
Right? You have systems for everything.
Exactly.
And when we started with Hulala, I mean, we had a homepage, or not. That was not correct. We had the address hulala.org, and that was pretty much it. We did not have mobile phones. We did not have laptops. No credit card. Nothing to spend money with, basically. So we really started with zero. That was kind of interesting. So we had the opportunity to build up everything, which is an opportunity, but it's also a challenge because there's nothing, right? So that was pretty cool
100%.
to see. Pretty cool to see. But as I said earlier, it's important to plan. To be even the worst planning is better than having no plan at all, right? So that's my key takeaway from the beginning days of Hulala, I would say.
Okay, all right. And yeah, I can remember, because my wife and I, we are living not so far away from where the restaurant is located, and we remember, I think back then there was
the cafe.
Cafe was there.
Right, exactly.
And then we remember when that was not there anymore, we saw the announcement of Hulala. And then because we are both, well, she's eating vegan, I'm eating partly vegan, then we tried it. And since then, we've been happy customers of yours. So
that's great to hear. Thanks.
Yeah,
thank you.
So we definitely like the concept. I particularly, from my side, I really appreciate the whole concept you have guys laid out regarding the self-servicing, because it's quite...
it's an important part of the system.
Quite easygoing, but we address that in a second. And the way how the concept is crafted, I really like it. But maybe this is a good point that you can introduce a bit more then. Hulala, what's standing for? What's the concept behind?
So the basic idea of Hulala, which the word Hulala itself does not exist. It is a word mixture between ulala, the French expression, and the word hula from Hawaii. We do not want to have a French impact. So the idea is like to have a mixture of the Hawaiian, California way of living. That's how we designed the whole store. Bright colors, a lot of wood, cool music, lots of plants. But the basic idea of Hulala is basically to have good food, healthy food with less fat than anybody else, 100% plant-based. So that anybody, regardless where you're coming from, what you're eating, can have a good time with us in our restaurant without the need to think about what do I actually eat here, because it's good food. You can eat everything. It's fine. Even people who eat meat, they can eat everything with us. Myself, I'm a meat eater, and the idea was it has to taste good for the meat eaters as well. And I think we really did something good on this regard.
Yeah, definitely. I said, I mean, we each of us have our favorites, but it's for sure.
What's your favorite?
So always the same. I always go for the forever free chicken, then the chili cheese, and then I know that I had to double check to make sure that I say the right product name. But we always like the salted caramel soft ice, which we by ourselves call the popcorn ice, because it's always on the top.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, those are the ones just because I like the routine. But in general, there are really nice things over there. But you were also saying something that I was thinking about before our talk, which was everybody, independent of what diet style you have, you should feel you find something from the environment that you like and from the food that you like. And that's something I found interesting because when you go into the website, then that's where I found, or maybe I missed it when I was there, this statement of 100% plant-based. But then when I was there for the first times, yes, we were aware that we would find that kind of menu, but it's not coming across directly.
Exactly.
So was that done intentionally?
So the idea is that you do not blast it out like we're 100% vegan or we're 100% plant-based. So we also speak about being plant-based, 100% plant-based, not being vegan, because some people, especially in Germany, they think vegan is like a very negative word and has a lot of negative energy. So plant-based food is something anybody can eat. Even meat eaters eat plant-based food every day. Even if you steak, there's some potatoes with it. 100% plant-based, right?
Yeah.
And that was exactly the idea. And I think that about 20% of customers come into our restaurant, eat there, and go out, and they don't know that they ate vegan.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. We saw some funny Google comments stating that, hey, we just found out writing the comment that this is a vegan restaurant. It was great. So that's pretty cool, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean that definitely gives you a feedback that you have really achieved that intention.
Exactly.
And
also the products that we serve are helping with a vegan lifestyle or with a plant-based lifestyle. So what we have is burgers, or meat burgers based on peas. Then we have what you like, the chicken burgers, based on soy. We have snacks and sides. We have the chili cheese balls. We have the chicken tenders without the last E. And then we have nachos. We have tater tots. It's a new product we brought in last year. We have the super fries. We call them super fries because they are fried without oil. We have industrial sized air fryers, which we're building together with a Dutch company.
Okay.
So that means we are by producing the food in air fryers, we are 25 to 40%, or we have 25 to 40% less calories than our competitors in the market.
Okay.
And that we also don't blast that out. You can find it. Yeah, that's an important point. But we don't write it on our flag and wave it around, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, but it's nice that you're really taking care and addressing all of that on the side, because at the end it makes it the overall integral offering to the customers quite interesting, quite strong.
Exactly. And I think also coming as a quick note on the pricing, I think we're quite competitive compared to other restaurant chains like Five Guys or like Hans im Glück, Peter Pane here in Germany. We want to have a pricing higher than McDonald's to have, and Burger King to have to show that the quality of food is much higher than what they offer. But at the same time, we say plant-based food does not need to be more pricey than regular meat food. So we try to stay under the pricing of our competitors.
Okay. That's also, indeed. And I mean, I think I can imagine that's not an easy one.
It's tough.
That's a tough one to really achieve that price level. But on the other hand, if you manage to get a concept, achieve that price level and the willingness to pay, I think you are set really good for the future.
Exactly.
Maybe I will park that, because I do have some more questions about what it means crafting a menu overall. But maybe going a bit again to the start. So you mentioned that when you started, it was again going from scratch, starting from zero, trying to see how do we make this happen. When the concept was shared with you or with you three guys, was there already a fully developed concept idea, or it was basically this should be the overarching direction? make it happen.
Yeah, like that. Exactly. They were,
All right.
this is what we thought of. Make it happen. So here's the money. You can ask us anytime, which was really helpful because they have in-depth knowledge on the investors have in-depth knowledge on restaurants and the restaurant business. But here's the money. You go for it, and that was super cool. I have to say. Really.
Okay, yeah, no, can imagine. But at the same time, also, if I think of the starting location that you had, on the one hand, yeah, I think that it's quite a good spot. So basically, for those listening, it's where the restaurant is located in the context of Düsseldorf. I would say it's in a really good transited area within the city. But to be able to succeed on such a starting location, you really need to have a strong offering. So when you were about to get going, which were the 2 or 3 things you said we need to excel from day one on those topics?
Yeah. So one thing you already said it. It's the menu. If you start with a bad menu, then there's no chance people get attracted. Then the funding has to be there. Also, for the starting phase, you have to phase in that you're not earning 100% of the money from day one. That takes few months. And people, you need the right people for basically any business that you start, but the restaurant or the gastronomy business is in particularly in need of good employees, and that was tough finding people, finding the right people to work with.
Okay, all right. And one thing is finding the right people that can work within the different teams that the restaurant needs, but also maybe also going back to the co-founders that you had, and basically the people that the 2 other people that you mentioned
Right.
you're running the business with. So
Yeah.
how do you build up that relationship, and how has that evolved over time?
Talking the whole time, meeting up, crunching numbers and ideas, planning again. Cannot stress that enough. But it's basically coming together, speaking about the idea and the willingness from all involved people to put this forward. And this is absolutely necessary. So you need to, or how do I say this? You need the intrinsic motivation to work. Yeah. If you're motivated by something else, I think it's not going to help. It's leading nowhere.
Okay. All right. And I mean, I could remember that you mentioned that at least the co-founder that is responsible for the operations part or for the actual management of the kitchen and so on had experience working in a restaurant before. But in your case, I know you did not. And I'm not sure if, you mentioned there was other person that was responsible for crafting the whole food and beverage menu, so I suppose as well. But did you feel that you coming from a complete different background and then they also having worked in the industry, was that a process that also made
I learned a lot, I have to say, from the 2 of them. Sometimes even they said it's good that you're not from the industry, because you come in with a fresh mind, with other viewpoints. You see things completely different than we do. From the beginning, I was very number focused and will this work out? I don't know. And they were like, "Oh, we always did it like this." Good that you're questioning it. So that was really good to have somebody in the team who is not from the industry, from my point of view, and also that's what they told me.
Yeah, and I think that's again when thinking of taking these decisions, or sometimes, I mean, it can be starting your career and thinking, is that maybe a good step for me if I don't have the full experience, or am I going to fit? Doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter. I would even encourage people to go into industries they're afraid of, because that way you will learn and grow automatically. So it really helps.
All right, thanks for sharing. Maybe now going into just to understand a bit the experience that you're offering. So as I mentioned to you, one of the things that I appreciate the most is how easy it's just to go to the terminal, and then how quickly everything works. But
Yeah.
How, maybe you can explain a bit how this whole customer experience was defined, why it was defined like that, what drove to make it like that?
So when we started up, we always said, like, we're an IT company with a restaurant attached. So whenever IT or digitalization helps us to drive the business, we take it into consideration and try to make use of that. And the whole customer experience starts when you enter the restaurant. There's two ways of ordering. The first way is the self-order terminal that you know from McDonald's, from Burger King, from KFC. Or you go directly to the table and order with a QR code and your smartphone. It's the same menu, and in both ways, the order goes directly to the kitchen system. We are using an Oracle system, kitchen system, with kitchen displays. If you have peeked into a McDonald's restaurant, they also have kitchen displays which help to produce the orders, streamline the whole process of producing the food. We have a cocktail machine, so-called cocktail machine. 100% of our drinks come from that machine, except the beers, but everything is made in this machine. It's mixed in the machine with fresh drinks.
Okay.
And the kitchen is built, and the bar is built in the way that anybody can work there. So if I put you in the kitchen, within 2 days, you can produce all the drinks, all the food, and you know how everything runs. That was the basic idea. And the customer experience ends with that you get the food to the table within a time frame. We always say on a regular day, it's between 7 and 9 minutes. And on a very busy Saturday, it can go up to 12, 15 minutes. But that's the time frame we are expecting the guests to get their food and drinks.
Okay. Yeah, I said, for me, it's really impressive how quickly the food is really delivered. And what I also find convenient is that even if I'm at the table, I can, with my phone, order anything additional, everything to be done completely cashless. But are you also facing a portion of your customers that are really still demanding options to pay with cash within the restaurant?
In the beginning, we had that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. But after, like, I would say 2-3 months, nobody was asking it.
Okay.
So people understood, okay, this is a cashless restaurant. It is what it is. If I don't have a credit card, I maybe have a PayPal account. I can use that on the smartphone, on the QR code. So there's really a lot of options to pay, and no questions asked.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, at the end, it's a topic of getting used to adoption. I think after a couple of times, then you're just realizing, okay.
Yeah. For us, it's much easier. And handling cash money is expensive. Yeah, you have falsified money. Money gets lost. A lot of other reasons you have to get rid of it. That's also costs money. And this advantage of using cashless, we were just handing it over to our customers with lower prices.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine also some of the risks that you just mentioned, I probably was not even thinking of, but I can imagine that it creates quite some advantages. How do you see this evolving? If you think of the customer experience that you offer, do you think you have now found a sweet spot that you say, this is exactly what we envisioned for the next couple of years and it's working fine? Or where do you think I would love at one point that we can also do Y?
So we're always thinking of what could be the next step. What is the next innovation in payment? What is the next innovation in ordering? We started with the delivering business in the beginning of 2024. But I think we're on a good way. We're not 100% there. I'm trying out, as I'm also responsible for everything IT related in the company, I'm trying out the customer experience at the self-order terminal. For example, when ordering a drink, you can choose between a medium and a large drink.
Mm-hmm.
And the medium drink comes on the left side, the large drink comes on the right side. And we found out that the vast majority of people is just ordering medium drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, okay, what if we put the large drink on the left and the medium drink on the right? Because people read from left to right.
Yeah, true.
And it is. We found out over the last half year that for one particular drink, you can search for it next time when you're purchasing XP, if you find it, that this drink has higher portion of large drinks compared to medium drinks. So that way we are learning how customers order, but it's easier for them to order, how it make it easier for them to order. and to make the whole experience even better, faster. They get the right products. So we don't stop there.
Okay. Yeah, I assume that also by having the systems on the backbone and having integrations, as you mentioned, with the kitchen and so on, the data that you generate as well and capture, it's also quite beneficial to be able to identify patterns and so on.
Super valuable. That's why also we went for the Oracle system, because everything can be read out except for payment data. So we don't know who our customers are yet. We do not have like a partnership program, but on an anonymous basis, we know what is being ordered, when is it being ordered, when do customers come in, when not, which time do they not come in. So that really helps to develop the business case.
Okay, all right. Yeah, understood. I said also as part of my, let's say my work as well, I think more and more learning, understanding, and knowing how much you can do with data, and really this art of deriving the right insight out of the data. You can really get a lot out of it. But of course, you need to be disciplined and you need to have the right setup in place.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it can also end up being a mess, I can imagine.
Exactly.
So let's maybe now move on. Although I know that you're not so much involved on that part, but maybe you can also share some thoughts from your experience. How is it to run a kitchen in such a restaurant? So what are the challenges? How have you found this in this new step in your career?
So when we started, of course, I helped in the restaurant. I made the burgers, I made the drinks, I served the food for the first weeks, because I wanted to know how really is it, and what are the people doing. And the challenges are to stick to the system. We build up a system in the beginning, stick to the system, keep the people doing the things in a systematic way, not doing things another way because they think it's faster, better. But on the other hand, if somebody finds a better, easier, or less cost or more cost efficient way, how to implement that into the system and to train the people to do it differently. Because in the past they did it. Let's take an example: salting of the fries. In the past it was 5 grams per kilo, for example, and going forward we found out only 4 grams is enough. How do you train the people to only put 4 grams of salt to the kilogram, not 5? So because you have a shift system, it's not enough to tell it to one shift, you tell it twice to another shift, and then you have to control it the next time and the next time as well. So that was really interesting to see. Well, it's basically managing people and managing a system, where that's where it comes down to.
What are situations in which it can get a bit complicated when running a kitchen?
Errors in the IT system. So we're highly dependent on what the kitchen displays say. If they tell us, well, you need 2 cheeseburgers, 2 cheeseburgers are being produced. And if they tell us you don't need to produce any burger, but people are ordering burgers, expecting their burgers to be delivered, but the kitchen display is staying silent, that's a huge issue. And then you really have to react within seconds, restarting the system. Where's the error coming from? And then it really helps to have a large corporate like Oracle in the background, where you can call somebody 24/7. But also I learned, I don't know if I can say this, but shitloads about this system. Really, in the past, I don't want to put myself higher than I am, but I'm nearly close expert in the system. Never thought about that when starting with this business. Really, that's so the technology. If you rely on the technology, it has to work. If it doesn't work, that's an issue.
Okay, all right, interesting. When you're running, and I think it's enough to have one experience that doesn't go as expected from a customer side to create a really strong impact to the reputation of the business and so on. So which are kind of those 2-3 areas that you're always trying to ensure also towards the customer that are working completely fine? And how has your experience been already in these years?
So food quality has to be 100%. Yeah, that's if it's bad food, you cannot hand it out. If it's bad quality with your drinks, don't hand it out. Do it again, doesn't matter, but the customer experience has to be 100%. If they receive a burger that is like upside down or not built as they are in the picture, do it again. We want to make sure that the customer gets what he's expecting to get. And I think we're doing a good job in that, because the pictures we take and the products we hand out, they are matching. You don't get what you get with competitors. The picture looks nice, and what you get is like a folded paper. So that does not match up, and I'm not happy getting that product.
Sure.
And then you end up paying like 12 euros for a burger, and I want a beautiful burger at my table. So that's super important, and that's why we also go out, ask the customers, hey, are you happy? Everything fine? What can we do better? So that is the key takeaway for me.
Okay, all right. I mean, one thing connected to that of course, I think it's now embedded in our daily lives, or for many people, that when we are looking where to go, what can we do, what's the next restaurant you can visit, everything you can find online and everything related to reviews and so on, they are really important ultimately to guide a
super important
customer.
You cannot stress that enough really. So in November, ending November and the whole December, there's the Christmas market in Germany, in Düsseldorf. And during some December Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, we have 60-70% of tourists in our restaurant. And they're not coming by incident, because we're not located directly at the Christmas market. We're a bit up to that. But they come in because of the good Google reviews, the TripAdvisor reviews. And we also focus on that. We train our restaurant servers to hand out Google review cards so that the customers can then review our restaurants if they're happy. And also if they're not, of course, we need the feedback anyway.
Okay.
But really, this is, especially in the restaurant business, this is maybe the most important part of the whole story.
Yeah, I can fully imagine and understand. And I think the moment you're looking for something and you see 2 stars, 3 stars, then automatically you have that bias that you say, okay,
exactly, yeah,
next one. So
exactly. So we are aiming for a 4.7 review with Google. We're currently at 4.6, but we're getting there.
Okay, all right. Something that I also was curious about was, I mean, regarding the building the and of course it depends from restaurant to restaurant. And you mentioned when differentiating yourself regarding competition, you have found the specific market segment that you would like to be addressing. But how about innovating the menu itself, or innovating the beverage as well? Is this something that you regularly need to look into? Is it rather that based on how you've set up things, you try to kind of have a fixed menu?
No, we have like partly, yes, we have like fixed product. The cheeseburger is a fixed product. The chicken burger is a fixed product. The fries are a fixed product. But we also try to bring a new product to check out that does it work or not. Like we implemented the loaded fries. That's the super fries with cheese sauce on it and some bacon bits. 25% of fries sales is now the loaded fries sales. So that's a product that really worked out pretty well. And then there's the peanut butter bacon burger we set up in the end of 2023, just to test out is it being bought or not. And we found out, okay, some people like it, but the vast majority is still sticking to the cheeseburger or the chicken burgers. So we took that out after 2 months. But of course, the engineering of the menu is key. You don't want to stop where you are, and especially guests who come in on a regular basis, they want to try out new things. Maybe not you as a person, but others.
I mean, I didn't have on top of my mind that peanut butter bacon one. So you at least can count with one more supporter if one day you decide to revive that one, because that sounds quite good. And how about is it really dealing with competition? Because at least again, in the area where the restaurant is located, you have many restaurants nearby. So do you think that you have now identified your segment, your target audience, loyal customer base?
I think we enriched the restaurant landscape in Düsseldorf, because a 100% pure burger salad restaurant in Düsseldorf did not exist prior. And also when searching for a city where to start the business, it had to be a city like Düsseldorf, could have been Cologne, could have been Frankfurt, but a larger city with a large portion of people with a tendency to eat plant-based food.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yes, we found our niche, if you want so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you see that probably you are better informed and of course had a certain tendency? I mean, if I compare the acceptance or willingness to engage on a full plant-based diet, I see that of course in Western European countries, in a country like Germany, or maybe let's look into a country like Germany, developing already. If I look or compare it against the country where I'm coming from, which is of course still on earlier stages, do you see that this is a trend that you expect to continue to develop further and further? Do you think that this is going to become faster in the next years? Or
personally, I don't think it's going to be faster. It will continue over the next years because the older generation dies out. Yeah, the people that say, "Well, I'm vegan food, I don't like this," go away, and the younger generation is more open to it. So that will help, but it will not accelerate largely over in the next years, I think.
Picking on what you also mentioned regarding picking the right place or the right city to bring such a concept, do you guys already have an idea on where would you like to expand, or is at the moment it's rather continue first to settle down with the current location?
No, we want to definitely grow. We need to grow this. That was the idea from the beginning. Most favorable city would be Cologne, of course, because it's close by, so you can drive over if something is wrong. Frankfurt, as I said, but also in the Ruhr area, there are interesting spots. And then the largest city in Germany, or even Europe. Yeah, if there's an opportunity in Amsterdam or in Paris or Brussels, why not opportunity driven?
When you are, and maybe you already gave some hints on that, but you can maybe elaborate a bit more. When you are looking or deciding the next suitable place or location where you could expand to, how are you analyzing this, or what are you looking into before making a potential decision?
A few key aspects. We need to be seen. It needs to be at a place with high frequency of pedestrians. We need a lot of window, at least 8 meters. And then the surrounding needs to be modern or well-preserved historic. So I could not think of open the next restaurant in the Düsseldorf main station, for example. Does not fit. It does not fit, even if the pedestrian frequency is high. And also we need a certain amount of square meters. So 300 to 400 would be preferred because we have at least 80 seats inside. We need some outside seating area in the summer. Outside seating is key for our concept. You open up the doors, have the nice music, have the flair from inside also on the outside. That's what we are basically searching for.
Okay, all right. Then, I mean, looking forward to see when that continues, and
we'll keep you posted.
And how that looks like. But no, interesting that you're already looking into that. Running a restaurant. So if you would look back into the moment you said, yes, I will do this, and then looking at where you're currently standing with the experience you've gained, what would you say are things that you were maybe not expecting that materialized, and things that you would say these were really great learnings that I'm taking?
So that the most I talked about earlier, personal employees. It is the key to have the right employees in place. If you don't have that, you're basically lost because you cannot operate anything without the right employees. So that was something I underestimated completely from the beginning, and that also where I had the best learning, let's say.
How do you ensure that the workforce remains engaged, or they are motivated, stand behind the brand? So,
involving them into decisions. Speak to them. Hey, do you think this is a good idea? Would you like to do something differently? What's your idea on this? What's your idea on that? People like to speak about their ideas. People like to be engaged. People like to be involved. So that definitely helps.
You mentioned also at one moment, when you're working on a corporate environment, that you have certain processes, you have structures which are in place, and then you need to basically go and say, okay, now I'm slimming down everything, starting from scratch, and then you start developing a concept, and then probably you have in your head one potential way on how you would structure things, divide responsibilities. And is it the case that what you originally started with has played to be the right structure and setup? How many times have you changed this?
I cannot. This is impossible to say. So there are some structures from the beginning that we still keep up. There are some reports that we are running right from the beginning, still running today. But especially in the startup phase of a company, you have to be really adaptable to change. It is key to be flexible. And to not be afraid of new ideas or ways to do things, new processes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah. I can imagine. So I think if you are just being stubborn and deciding to say, this is my way, you are probably setting yourself potentially for failure. Maybe not.
I wouldn't even say that. Potentially, yes. But I mean, there are laws that you have to follow that also gives like boundaries in which you can walk, but really don't stick to anything
and remain really flexible as you go on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So as we are coming almost to the end, I just wanted to wrap up and go step back a bit from your experience. Again, really interesting everything you've shared regarding your experience with Hulala, but of course running a business and a business in the industry in which you are, I can imagine it's quite demanding, quite, you need to be really engaged and committed to it. How do you manage to disconnect when you say, okay, I need to refresh, regain energies? What exactly do you engage with to manage that?
So we have a small house in Sweden where I really like to go to. It's in the middle of nowhere, so
okay.
Getting out of the car, I immediately feel relaxed. But then coming home, we have a small kid, so 3 months old, and this is family and friends, a blessing to get your mind empty and to refresh. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can definitely, I mean, of course, at the end, it can be running a business. Probably people listening in, they have all sort of different situations that require really to disconnect. I think that's really important to be mindful of.
It is.
And I can relate to that. So being somewhere away from the usual stress, congestion from whatever you are on a daily basis, I think that's, really good. I also appreciate that.
Startup especially is a lot of work, right? 9 to 5 does not exist. It simply does not. But don't be afraid. Go for it. It is so rewarding. The things you learn and the people you meet. This is super rewarding. I couldn't estimate how much rewarding that was in the beginning, but it's really the network we built up over the last 3 years is amazing. Really, it is super. So basically, it is super cool. I can just do it. Yeah, this is what I can say to it.
So then going back to one of the first questions that I did, maybe there was no back then clear or obvious driver to say, yes, I would imagine myself being a business owner at this stage in my life, but then based on everything you've lived by now, you would say it was worth it to take the steps you took from the corporate side, but also even now what you've done now.
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Good. Then what I would really just ask you shortly is maybe if you can, again, wrap up shortly regarding the offering from Hulala. Maybe people can also just take a final message. If they're walking around in Düsseldorf, maybe they have it, heard it, they can see it, visit it. So maybe just some final words from your side.
Well, if you're around Düsseldorf, we would super happy to welcome you at the Hulala restaurant at the Karlsplatz in Düsseldorf. Good food, good people, good music, good design. If you're into that, you're warmly welcome to get a nice burger, salad, snack side, a cool drink. Yeah, looking forward to welcome you.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Gunnar.
Thank you.
So big thank you for your time, for sharing your experience, your story. Really appreciate that. And
Thanks a lot.
yeah, for those listening, I hope that you can also get as much insights, interesting thoughts as I did in this conversation. So thank you very much again, Gunnar, and thank you very much to all of you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and talk to you or see you in the next one. Take care.
Much appreciated. Thanks a lot.
If you enjoy the conversation, I would really appreciate your support. So depending where you're listening to it, don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast and leave any questions or comments. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.